Once upon a time, there was a girl. She was different. She would walk around the city in worn down shoes, ripped rags, and with her hair just ever so messy. She was the kind of girl who would act how she wanted. She would dance and sing, but the kind of dancing that is so awkward no one would ever say anything. People would just watch in awe, and the kind of singing that was so loud her friends couldn't help but sing along with her. She seemed to be the most confident with her head held high and cracked smile almost every time you saw her. She laughed over absolutely nothing. Her words flowed out of her mouth like a river. These words were filled with hope, love, and pride. She tended to ignore her surroundings because her mind was stuck in a selfish utopia. She was blinded by the beauty of life and the simplicity it had to offer. She was a true believer in everlasting, unconditional love. She was beautiful, she was passionate, she was unstoppable. Once upon a time, there was a boy. He was different. He would walk around the city in worn down shoes, ripped rags, and with his hair just ever so messy. He was the kind of boy that wouldn't follow the rules. He was incredibly stubborn and chose to act against the norms of society. His opinions were sound and firm, which was a very favorable trait amongst his peers. The way he spoke was crunchy. His words were like walking through darkness. They were intriguing with an essence of mystery. He was smart, too. He would question anything and everything in his path, and made sure to fully understand the reasoning behind his decisions and actions. He made people feel good about themselves, though. He had a way of connecting with any person he encountered through his down-to-earth soul. He was conscious and made a decent effort to be happy. He was never a true believer of everlasting, unconditional love. He was intense, he was passionate, he was unstoppable. One day, the girl and the boy happened to cross paths. They glanced over at each other and knew something was different. They knew the other was special for some reason. They started to talk deeply and passionately, almost like the world stopped spinning for the time and nothing mattered except them two in that specific moment. They spoke with ease. They laughed until the sun rose and set again. They had sparkles in their eyes. Their hearts were filled with an overwhelming sense of joy. They were on top of the world and so deep in love it would take an entire lifetime to split them apart. Despite their differences, disregarding all the things they thought they knew, they were perfect. They were infinite, they were passionate, they were unstoppable. Then, as quickly as they fell in love, they started to fall out of love. The days went by and complacency started to set in. The two humans who were so madly in love grew desperate for the attention of another. They would bicker and argue over what life meant and how they were ever going to make it out alive. The rosy-colored glasses eventually fogged up and turned black. Life was never that simple for her, and he always knew things were too good to be true. Nothing they did was wrong, though. They grew up and they grew apart. All things must come to an end, and that was okay. They understood soulmates don't exist, just seasons. They knew that the time they spent together was precious and timeless. That didn't make it any easier, though. No one ever expects to lose what they thought was the love of their life, but when they do, the world comes crashing down in slow motion. Their hearts, once filled with joy, were now bleeding darkness. She was angry. He was sad. They were now stoppable. The heartache eventually wore down for him. He started questioning things again and moved on. He fell in love with someone new, as if she never mattered, because, well, that's what he did best. She was devastated and hurt. She stopped dancing and singing, and her once so confident self began to morph into a pessimistic downfall. The smile that would crack at everything soon turned to a very rare occasion. It seemed almost impossible to get her words to flow with beauty, because to her there was no such thing as beauty any longer. Until one day she decided to start dancing again. Life was too short to not sing on the top of her lungs, and there were so many nothings to laugh about. She deserved to be the greatest she there was. She decided to live. She began to blossom into the person she always dreamt of being. She was even more beautiful. She was even more passionate. And finally, after what felt like an eternity, she was yet again unstoppable.